So the game engine for Return to Zork was C and assembly language running this Lisp interpreter. And so let's talk about what happened in the game itself. So they brought in writers and artists, and the idea was we wanted to do Zork, but we were also committed to making it the hardest game ever played. We were pretty much left on our own. Activision was going through a major reorg. They were going through a financial reorg. Management had a pretty hands-off attitude towards it, which is probably one of the reasons it succeeded. And we went a little crazy. We decided, for one, we were going to make it the deepest game we could make it, and two, we didn't care if the puzzles were unfair. We wanted people to be frustrated because we had the opinion that what had killed us in Love of Goddesses was that people had gotten through the game way too fast. So we wanted to make it so that the best adventure game player in the world would be flummoxed by this game and have to redo many things. Eddie had seen some stuff on a menu system based on a circle divided into 4 pie slices. And because we had done a Sega game that involved collisions, we discovered that this thing called taxi cab geometry with diamonds was a really quick way to determine a hit. So if you have a coordinate on a screen and you have a diamond, you can use very few cycles to determine whether the cursor is in or outside the diamond. It's very instantaneous. It's as fast as determining whether something is inside a rectangle or not. So we went to a diamond interface for the menus. And the idea was, let's go fully object-oriented. You can touch an object with another object, blah, blah, blah. You get these deep, deep, deep game puzzles because the system basically did a reverse parser. You use an object on another object, and you get a bunch of verbs that would come up as animated icons, and you choose a verb and so on. It would actually tell you the sentence that was being constructed. And we went whole hog on this, the idea of being able to take a picture of every scene and showing it to a character and having the character tell you what they thought of that. The ability to have this tape recorder thing where every conversation was, quote, recorded. We simply noted what you'd heard. And we had this virtual tape recorder, and you could play back a conversation and someone would comment on it. We had notebooks, and you could also ask people about any object. So you'd hold something in your hand, you'd show them that object, and they would make a comment on it. Very deep. It was kind of haphazard, to be honest. I mean, I think, hindsight's 2020, more time spent on the plot and tying it all together could have been fun. But it was new. It was like all new to us. We were basically building a completely different type of game than we had built before. Deep puzzles with this digital video stuff going left and right. And we had to make a floppy version as well as a digital video CD-ROM version. And it had to run on craptastic machines. So there had to be all sorts of things like the video system had to be able to play at half frame rate without fucking up the video frames so that it would work on a really slow machine. I think the base machine was a 16 megahertz 386. At the time, that was like, oh, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
But, I can tell you one thing about the PC industry that was funny at the time is we would get a new game from another company, and we would not have a single PC in Activision that could run the game. Things were moving so fast, people were actually shooting for machines that hadn't even really hit the public yet. So we were pretty reasonable. We didn't run on 286 machines, but we ran on decent 386 machines and above. And so huge amount of artwork, a lot of 3D, everything that you look as a background was 3D rendered. Almost all the backgrounds are 3D rendered. It was some package on the Macintosh. I don't know exactly the name of it, but it might be in the documents that are on that site. But they used a 3D rendering package. The UI was sort of Eddie and me bouncing off ideas, and I did probably the most unfair puzzles at all because I was kind of PO'd about it. So the bog is my puzzle. The bra box is my puzzle. The bonding plant, maybe mine and Eddie's together. I don't know. It was pretty mean. If you pulled the bonding plant out rather than dug it out, you're fucked. It was funny. The comedy club was something bizarre, where you had to play back a joke you heard from someone else. There were some mono-rear puzzles, like piling all the stuff at the end on that platform in order to make something happen. That was kind of weird. The statues was Eddie's. That was crazy, where you had all these statues and you had to put stuff in the statues and create some sort of Rube Goldberg sequence. That was definitely an Eddie sequence. The artist may have come up. I think one of the artists came up with the invisible wall that you threw the glass wall that you threw the disc at to break to get into the final scene. Eddie came up with Survivor, the game. There's a lot of people just throwing ideas out, and it was an unfettered, like, hey, we're going out of business anyway. We might as well do this right.
Have fun with it.
Yeah. We don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow, but we'll have fun with this. It's kind of cool. Yeah. It's great. It was one of the craziest moments of my time. But it's like there's something to be said for basically letting creativity happen. And you know, we see this now all the time. Like there's a game out there called where these horses, these Pegasuses, fly for the sky, and they basically jump on other horses and run them into meat grinders. What's it called? Horse. What's let me tell you. This is just a great story how this came. This is a game from a company called Gameloft. Unpleasant Horse, I think. Unpleasant. Horse. I think it's Unpleasant Horse.
It looks like it.
Unpleasant Horse. And the story behind this game is that Popcat, they simply put together words and said unpleasant horse racing in the sky and told the people they had 24 hours to come up with a game, and they came up with this game with this horse flying around, jumping on other horses and running them into meat grinders. You know, there's something to be said for unfettered creativity. I'll give you the link to the Video Game Decline article. Let me see that. And here we go. And, you know, so the cool things about Return to Zork, the game engine was this Lisp-like engine that was totally object-oriented, very compact engine. I think the actual core language was like 7 kilobytes. I think the core engine was like 80 kilobytes, doing all the video, all this stuff. It was pretty cool, and it was ported around to a lot of machines. The digital video format was, you know, a nice little piece of work for its time. Everything had to run in these 256 color displays, which were painful because everything had to be. You had to figure out what palette to use for, you know, for the best scene and all that. And I think the way we did is we locked 64 colors down for all the UI stuff, and the rest would float around so that every scene could look as good as it could. Some of the things like the singing voices and all that, I think it came up pretty well. I think my favorite character is the guy underneath the bridge, the waif who's really nervous. You know, if you have to be really nice to him, and then he gives you something. I thought that was the seed of brilliance. So let's talk about what happened after Return to Zork.
All right.
After Return to Zork, we wanted to do another game just like it. We wanted to do either the Planetfall or, you know, that Planetfall game was a text game that everyone loved because there's a robot character that follows you around. So people started working on that. They actually started working on the graphics and stuff. And what happened is exactly what I said happened in Myst. Activision published Manhole, and then they published Cosmic Osmo. Then Activision got into financial trouble, and basically the dumbbells, I guess, basically told Cyan to pound sand when Cyan asked for money. So they went off to Broderbund, and they did Myst, and Myst was a huge success. So everyone was trying to do Myst. So everyone was so convinced that the way to go was to do a Myst-like game. They went off and did that, and, you know, Eddie left the company, and then I left the company, which may have been the stupidest thing I ever did in my career because, you know, I never, God knows where I'd be right now. One of my friends who had been at Activision in Northern California and also was at Aegis is now the VP of, what's his title? Director of production or something like that. He's like the head of production for Activision, the whole company. Mm-hmm. He was in high school when he worked for us at Activision. At Aegis, he was in his early 20s at Activision. And now he runs the show, you know, basically the production show. It's a good place to be. It's good to be the king. So I maybe shouldn't have left Activision. But I did, partly because I wanted really to do what I wanted to do in adventure games. And so I got a chance to go to this educational software company that wanted to do a whole bunch of adventure games related to education, where puzzles were basically educational puzzles. And we did that. We built 100 CDs for the Sony PlayStation that were never sold to the public, that were sold to schools. And we went public in 2000, and .com crashed and all hell broke loose.
Oh, yeah.
10 years of hell. But, you know, so be it. I started getting into mobile 2001, 2002, and I started working on mobile multiplayer stuff in 2003 and 4. I was out of my mind to do it. We did a game in 2004, 2005, the current co-founder of Playscreen, the company I'm at now, mm-hmm. and myself, we did a game called The Dozens with the Wayans brothers, which was basically a multiplayer card-like game where you had cards that were Yo Mama insults that you played against the other guy. And this was a multiplayer game with text chat on phones in 2004, 2005, way ahead of our time.
Its time, yeah.
And, you know... So, you know, to present day, you look at the physics puzzle games that are out there, they dominate. knocking stuff down and all that. And that's where things really needed to go. What needed to happen was people needed to take the Doom engine that everyone loved. You got to understand, when first person, I used to say, doomed adventure games in many ways, because you had a really rich experience. I mean, you were in that world, and it was visceral, and it was happening
right now.
And what needed to happen for adventure games, they needed to take the adventure game idea, which was a story is unfolding and you're going to uncover that story, but place it in that environment. And it really never happened, because it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth the money to spend on it. The Dig, which is LucasArts' big game, came out years late and probably lost money or made very little money. It was years late. Sierra Online, they stopped doing what they did. There was a lot of beautiful work, though. The whole King's Quest series was an incredible piece of work. The whole Monkey Island thing, Monkey Island was a huge, huge success in terms of just the creativity of it all, and that was all lost. And so now maybe it'll come back, I don't know. But it's such an interesting era to have, and to be part of it is kind of cool. At the time, you're not thinking, oh, I'm making gaming history here. You're just thinking, God, I hope you don't go out of business, Hope this thing is a success. I can remember when I first saw the PC Gaming World article about the making of Return to Zork, and I realized, okay, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be big. It's funny, I've got a project going on right now at Playscreen, which has nothing to do with adventure games, but it's a big category of games, and it's a big license, and it's a big deal. And I'm thinking, I know how this feels. I know how this feels to have potential. To basically be sitting on something that you think could be really big, and the scariness of it all. So yeah, Return to Zork was like that. But when shipped, we were on pins and needles. We did a lot of things smart. We shipped a disc out well before it that was a preview of the title with video clips and some interface stuff, and got people interested in the game before it ever showed up. Different world, though. I mean, shoving stuff through the retail market, it's a different world. Return to Zork also became one of the first MPEG titles. A company called Real Magic had a card called the Real Magic movie card or TV card that went into your computer and did digital video. MPEG 1, which was the stuff that preceded DVDs. And we did a version that was bundled with that card. If you can find that version, you should see it, because the videos are perfect. They look like a DVD at that point. It's pretty cool. So the Real Magic version of Return to Zork, someone has to have a Real Magic card, they have to have the drivers, and they have to have the Return to Zork disc that shipped with it. My understanding from the numbers I know, and I could be completely wrong, is that they moved about 2 million copies of this game, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 1993.
That's a lot for them.
Myst did 10 million or something insane,
Yeah.
But Myst was the bragwort title of all time. So yeah, so there it was. There was a slice of time where the adventure game market had a fork in the road, so to speak, and they chose to go to the sort of pretty pictures, pretty video route, and they didn't do the sort of deep puzzle, deep play. But other games have taken this up. I mean, you look at a game like BioWare's, the one where you go in the water, what's it called? Oh, it's a game where this futuristic guy invites you to this city that's underneath the water, and you have these little sisters.
Bioshock.
Bioshock. That's okay. That's pretty cool. It's a first-person shooter, but it's an adventure game. That's for sure. And that's interesting. It's
fair amount of story and character development.
The puzzles are weird, though. I mean, the puzzles are all these wiring diagram things. It's like, okay, you guys are close. You've got Bioshock, and you've got puzzles that you have to solve to continue playing this first-person shooter game, but the puzzles are like just plumbing, It's like, connect the pipes, It's like, why can the puzzles be like, I'm blocked from this entrance? How am I going to, MacGyver. Could have been there. It's close. And, of course, you have the Mr. Phelps, here's your mission if you decide to accept it, Assassin's Creed. So Assassin's Creed is kind of cool, but it's pretty much, here's your mission, go ahead and do it, and okay, so here's how I feel about that. Assassin's Creed, what if you weren't given missions? What if you were just dropped into this world and you had to actually interact with people to figure out what the fuck was going on and come to your own conclusion what you needed to do? Then you'd have a pretty deep game. So I'm hoping that people apply adventure thinking to games like that, because imagine Assassin's Creed without the Mr. Phelps, the Mission Impossible, giving you your mortars, go ahead and do this. Imagine instead it was Discovery, and then you did what you did in Assassin's Creed. And imagine Bioshock, where the puzzles weren't just the pipes, but actually things involving the devices and stuff in the world. So
more
Yeah.
More plasmid powers, physics manipulation,
Yeah,
and that.
the Tiny Birds meets Bioshock meets.
Yeah.
Tiny Birds is hilarious because it's a simple physics puzzle. It's a cute story, and it just succeeds so wildly well. You have to admire the fact that they've sold as many as they have. It's hilarious. It's fun.
Well, it's
yeah.
definitely the breakout title of the iPhone.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's I said to someone I felt that Tiny Birds was like a Mario level title in the sense that there'll be properties based on it for years and years to come. They sort of got that, as a Mario character.